During the wintertime, nothing warms the heart like something sweet and savory from Dewey's Bakery. This time of year, let our wonderful sponsors at Dewey's help you celebrate all those special moments, like football parties or Valentine's Day treats for that special someone in your life. Super Bowl-themed pull-apart cupcakes, heart-shaped cakes, whatever you can dream up, Dewey's can make it a reality. Just make sure you visit local.deweys.com, that's local.deweys.com, to place your order. Or visit any of their 3 Triad area locations immediately, in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Ronalda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. So make this winter special for the ones you love and others with Dewey's Bakery, home of Free Cake Square Monday all year round. Dewey's, celebrate every day. The upcoming podcast of Twin City Talk is produced by Tim Beeman of Such and Such Media. Start your own podcasting journey by visiting suchandsuchmedianc.com. These podcasts are produced weekly, and every episode can be found at their website, twincitytalk.com.
Welcome to Twin City Talk. Today we are talking to Nathan Whitaker. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, especially virtually.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So Nathan lived in the Triad for a while, but he's now in Florida, and he is a motivational speaker. He wrote some books. So tell us a little bit about all that you do.
Yeah, so I've become an author as of 2007. My first book came out. And so that's been 18 years or so, I think. I'm an English major, but I think it's about 18 years of writing. And then I've started speaking based on that my first book was with Tony Dungy. I've done 8 books with Tony, 1 with Tim Tebow, some others. And those have launched me into when people realized that maybe they weren't going to be able to get Tony to come in and speak on leadership, that they could find me. And so I've been able to do that and expand what I've done. But as you mentioned, I lived in the Triad at one point, practiced law there. And so I've done a variety of different things. And my wife is hopeful that I've kind of landed on the one that I'm going to still be on for a while.
And I didn't realize you were involved with the NFL. What did you do with them?
Yeah, so I practiced law for 2 years at a large firm in the Triad, and then left there to join the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so I spent 3 years in their front office dealing with salary cap issues, contract negotiations, and the like. And then after 3 years with the Jags, joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and spent 3 years with them doing similar things. Plus, they added a little bit of scouting. The hope was that I could get on a general manager path and work toward that. And then in 2004, a bunch of us got fired when they changed up things. And we did win a Super Bowl along the way, which was fun. But then we got fired and had a chance to join the Seahawks in Seattle and the Falcons and others. But being a Florida guy, and I've been fortunate to work for 2 Florida teams, and I really wanted to stay in the South, so I decided to go on a different path. And that's when I started writing books. And it took me 3 years to write that first book, 3 years of unemployment before that came out. But now it seems to be a pretty good path. Every now and then I start to get an itch, and my wife can see it in my eyes where I start to think about, a friend of mine just got hired by such and such a team, and she's like, "Whoa, wouldn't you rather spend Christmas with us?" And I'm like, "Yes, you're right, I forgot."
So we met back when
I'm sorry.
We met back when I was at Hayes Group, which is a leadership company. So do a lot of your books involve leadership and your speaking? Is that a lot about that?
They do. They do a lot around leadership, team building. I'm speaking to the National Athletic Directors Association this coming Tuesday, and there'll be 5,000 ADs, and I'm going to speak on some on leadership and team building, but then just kind of have a note of encouragement for them as we leave. So kind of a little bit of motivation as well. But, I was telling the Hayes Group story the other day. That was my first real kind of workshop that I've been asked to do. Up until that point, I'd always done keynotes. And I remember you guys scheduled me. I was telling somebody this the other day about learning to grow and change. Y'all scheduled me for 3 hours one afternoon. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to basically instruct. And now I love doing workshops and I love getting interaction. But my model of what I was supposed to do was I should stand there and talk for 3 hours. And it was painful for me. And I'm sure it was painful for them. And now I've learned, and I really enjoy doing workshops and can do a half day or a whole day or whatever. But that was the first initiation into that. And I realized later, boy, I'd done everything wrong in that event. So anyway, it was good to meet you there anyway.
Yeah, I think, and you also talked at the leadership experience. I think that's also something I was involved with when you were, but that was a much shorter one. It was not 3 hours.
Yes, and we all appreciated that. But,
So I'm curious if you're talking about leadership, and I assume there are through lines that you carry over from one to the next that are tenets of what you like to talk on. Can you speak to that a little bit? I'm curious.
Sure. So really, for me, kind of, it's all anchored in significance and what it means to be successful. And so whether it's we're building a team or we're undertaking something or we're leading, why are we leading and what's the point? And so I actually, when I was unemployed for 3 years, I was trying to write. I was talking to Tony Dungy, trying to talk him into writing a book. And he said, nobody wants to read about me. And I don't think I have anything to share anyway. And so I put together a book on leadership with leadership principles and things that I had seen Tony do and some other coaches. And so I was going to have him be a part of it.
If Tony Dungy doesn't have anything worth reading about, then none of us do. That's
right. Well, that's what I was trying to tell him. Right. It took me 3 years to talk him into that.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's all right. But I had all these notes on leadership. And so we came out with his memoir, and then we came out with a book of values. And then the publisher came back to us and said, your first book hit #1 and your second book hit #2. And Tony actually Tony apologized for the book that only hit #2 on the New York Times list. And he said, sorry, it didn't do better. And they just rolled their eyes.
Tony would do.
Right? Yes. So the third book, they said, could you do a book on leadership? And Tony said, well, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to share. And I said, I've got 3 years of notes about things you do. And so I had kind of the thought behind it, or some of the foundational principles. But when we talked through it, and Tony came through it and kind of put his mark on it, he said, at the end of the day, if we're not mentoring others, if we're not building other leaders, and we're not strengthening the whole organization, then why are we doing this? And so that really became a touchstone for me. So every time I speak on leadership, or if it's on team building, why are we doing this, right? It's the Simon Sinek, what's your why? And what's your point in doing this? And if it's just for quarterly profits, or if it's just to win some games, or whatever it may be, all those things matter. But if we're not changing lives and impacting people and doing things for a bigger reason, then we probably need to think about our goal of why we're leading and what we're trying to do. So that's kind of the through line in a lot of my talks. Is it ultimately anchors itself in that. And partly that was where I was coming from kind of all along in my background. But then it really was driven home when I was working in the NFL and missing holidays, and Tony was doing his best, but missing holidays and other things. And I thought, if it wasn't with Tony, who was working so hard to make sure that we stayed grounded in what we were trying to do, that it would have been even harder. And I had so many friends who got out of law school and they had either bad bosses or tough situations or whatever. And that really drove it home for me, that if we're not kind of always thinking about why we're doing what we're doing, then maybe we need to rethink it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And every sports team I've been a part of, every movie I've shot, and whatever it might be, the people who encourage the best in others are always the people that stand out as the great leaders in the room, the people that make the effect of those that are the lasting impressions, where people walk away from it being better, doing better, wanting better. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. And being able to do that, and I'm sure I have no doubt that this has become part of how you've done it and what you've seen, but everybody can do that in their own way, right? Sometimes we think about motivation and we think about the charismatic leader, the person, but a lot of times the way in which we help others, inspire others, lead others, guide others can be just by example, or it can be in a quiet word or a note of encouragement, or standing on the table, right? There are a lot of different ways. And that's been really fun to work with Tony and have people kind of have to rethink, oh, he's totally different than Tim Tebow or others. And so I don't have to be one or the other, and I can just be kind of who I am, but have these goals in mind and try to work toward those. So.
Yeah, no, very nice.
Tony Dungy was the keynote speaker for my college graduation. Now,
Oh, was he?
The caveat here is I was 42 whenever, or 41 whenever I graduated. But he was. I graduated from Kaplan, was known as Kaplan then. Now it's Purdue Global, much better sounding and actually better school. But it was in Miami that we did the graduation. So he was prolific in what he was saying, and just went along with, he is prolific as a human being anyway. So
Yeah, lives very much of what he talks about.
Yeah.
I'm sure, as Tebow does. Yeah.
He does. They do. And I'm impressed you got him. Tony's first year of retirement, he thought, this is great. I can speak. I can do all this. And his wife came to him and said, I saw you more when you were coaching. So he cut way back. And so I know of a lot of folks who wanted to be a commencement speaker, a variety of things or whatever. And he started saying no to everything. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
What a year it was in 2025, and our friends at the Ginther Group want to begin the new year by saying thank you to the nearly 400 members of the Triad that bought or sold a home with them last year. And now that the holidays are in our rearview mirror, the last thing you need in your life is more stress. For those of you in the market, you should know that 80% of Ginther Group clients that left a 5-star review indicated that their agent made the process less stressful or even enjoyable. So what are your real estate goals in 2026? Whether you're trying to achieve them right now or maybe later in the year, call the Ginther Group today at 336-283-8689, or you can visit their website at theginthergroup.com. Even if it's not the right time to buy or sell, that's okay. You can still meet with them about your plans so that you can work with a team you can trust to have you ready when the time is right. That's 336-283-8689 or theginthergroup.com. Call or visit the Ginther Group today. It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit threemagnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
Which then turned into, the guy who wrote 8 books on him being, the person who would certainly be the foremost authority and being his mouthpiece.
Right.
Not so bad.
I'm sorry, Tony's booked, but
However.
So as far as your writing and speaking, what do you find the most challenging part?
Well, I think it's true of a lot of things, right? I hear people talk about, find your passion and you'll never work a day or whatever. And maybe it's just me, but that's not true. That I love writing. And when it was a hobby, I loved it even more. And now when I have a deadline and I have something that I've got to produce, all of a sudden it's a job. And so it can be daunting, the blank page or I still have 55,000 words to go. But I've learned, like so many other things in life, that it's about the small steps and it's about knocking out 1,000 words here. And, that's only 5 pages and I can do that, 4 pages. If I do 4 pages today and 4 pages tomorrow, and then it's not so bad. But that's kind of the most daunting thing to me still is sitting down, especially at the beginning of a project. And so I've done a bunch of things to try to help myself, whether it's putting my word count in Excel and making a pie chart. And so every day I can see the piece of the pie get a little bit. And it probably shows what a simple mind I have. But anyway, it works for me.
That is a cool idea. Yeah. I don't know though. The converse might also be true. When I see that tiny little sliver, so all of a sudden I get this big old unfinished wheel. I think that might drive me crazy. So,
I print them. I was going to say I print them, and I when I'm in a project, I print them and I put them sequentially, because just looking at one and thinking, oh, I've only done 8%. But when you can see that, okay, well, yesterday I'd only done 5%, and the day before that 2%. And anyway, for me it helps. But yes, you're right, Burgess.
So I noticed the Duke helmet over your shoulder there. Were you a grad of said university, or just a fan, or am I saying Duke? Is that what that says?
You are, and I'm surprised that just in looking at me, you don't think, man, that's a guy who played college football.
It was my first thought, but I didn't want to jump to that assumption.
Right, of course. Yes. I actually was recruited to play baseball at a number of schools, ended up going to Duke, and then walked on to the football team. So I played for Coach Spurrier there for 3 years.
Very nice.
And so I do have some allegiances, although my oldest daughter just went to Carolina. And so
mine too.
Okay. And
freshman?
what a fantastic school. So I've had to learn to bite my tongue when I want to say things.
Well, you get to have bragging rights on the ACC championship. So well done there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. How about that?
Crazy, right? That was super unexpected. I mean, I feel terrible for Virginia that didn't get to move on. And then, Duke managed to somehow find this crazy set of loopholes. Did you see all the things they had to qualify for to make that work? Bizarre.
I did. I heard it was like the 5th tiebreaker down, and the ACC needs to. I mean, happy for Duke, but they need to fix it to where the team that's ranked 10th, Miami, is in the game.
Right? Yeah. The whole who's best should be playing. A little meritocracy might be in order.
Well, that's the thing about ranking. It's not like in the NFL. Whoever has the best record is up there. But in ranking, it's a bit of a popularity contest.
Yeah, but even the NFL does it with conferences. I mean, Panthers are about to potentially end up winning out the South and therefore making the playoffs. And I mean, if you want to look at the entire league, they have no business. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. You got to figure it out somehow. But no, still back to Duke though. I mean, they've had a pretty impressive couple of years and coming out of like a phoenix there for the last couple of years. It's really cool. Wake Forest too, for that matter.
And Wake, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What position did you play?
I was a kicker. I should have made you guess, but I was a kicker. I was a shortstop and a kicker. So,
okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So throwing
my
and
grandmother
kicking.
thought it was great. My grandmother's like, wait, so if they hit you, they get a penalty? I'm like,
yeah, sure do.
Right.
So going back to your time in the Triad and spending time in Winston, what did you love about Winston when you came over here?
So, can we edit out this long pause?
Absolutely not.
We could.
So, all right, we're good.
Well, if you say something great now, we're definitely gonna lengthen that pause. Like, look at the dramatic pauses happening before this amazing commentary on Winston.
So here's my challenge: that I enjoyed my trips to Winston, but they were more infrequent, given that we lived in Greensboro. I practiced law there. We lived there, and my wife taught school there. And so we loved the Triad as a whole. It was the greatest airport I've ever. I thought it was a fantastic airport. And so I don't have as many experiences in Winston. And then all the ones I had were about 30 years ago. I moved away in 1998, so 28 years ago. But we loved being in the Triad, loved the weather, loved the people. And my wife literally cried when we moved to the Jaguars. All my friends thought, this is the greatest job. I can't believe you're going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What an amazing situation. And my wife just wept. We left behind our first home in the Triad. And so anyway, we loved it. And I probably should have spent more time in Winston. The place I went to the most in Winston was Wake, and they were beating our brains in baseball or football at that time. So I'm not sure I had great experiences there.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
I grew up here in Gainesville, Florida.
All right,
That's where I've moved back to.
Makes sense. Yeah. Gainesville. Yeah. The
Yes,
swamp.
and I'd gone to the North Carolina mountains for years, and then went off to college, of course, in Durham, in the Triangle, but then lived in the Triad. And And so I had this experience of like, oh, this is going to be great. Highs are going to be in the 70s in the summer. And I learned quickly that that the weather of the Triad or the Triangle is not exactly what I thought I was getting into when I moved north.
Yeah.
But we
Not far
loved it.
enough.
It was a great experience.
Yeah, you can have all the seasons in a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true. That is 100%. So you've obviously traveled all over and enjoyed working for a bunch of different teams. Did you have a preference, a place that you loved, whether it was community, the topography, the area, the team, that kind of thing? Because, it's pretty interesting assortment you've got there.
So you mean as far as where I've traveled and where I've been?
I mean, sure, the teams, the locale, the people. I don't know what strikes you.
Yeah. So, well, the teams I worked for, it was a great experience in Tampa. I would have loved to have, there's a part of me that would have loved to have worked for the Panthers. At the time I was working for the Jaguars, they had just come into the league, both of them. And so we actually had a rivalry back in that day. It was Carolina and Jacksonville that were competing and comparing each other.
Yeah, they're sister teams, like like the Bucks and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. And now we're really showing our age, right? That we remember them as sister teams.
Yep.
But I would have loved to work for the Panthers and been a part of that. I do love the Carolinas and being there. Of late, we've gotten a chance to travel a little more internationally. And I would have never told you that Asia or Thailand or anything like that was on my list of places to see. I'm kind of a homebody. And I've done a couple of conferences in Bangkok. And I just love the energy and the speed and the pace and the people to be fascinating. I'm not sure I'd want to spend a lot of time there, but we've been there for a couple of weeks, and that's been kind of fun as far as seeing things that are totally different and coming back home and realizing that some of the things I take for granted, others don't. And so that's been really good for me. Because for a long time, it was a question, if you'd asked me that, I'd been like, well, comparing, my time in North Carolina versus my time in Florida, we can leave my time living in Boston out of that. That was fun, and those were interesting people. But I was freezing for 3 years in Boston. But anyway, it's been interesting and eye-opening, and again, that may show how small my mind is at times, that I need to actually go experience something to realize some of the things I take for granted. But it's all been a part of my growth, I think. And
very
so
nice. Yeah, I hear that a lot about Asia and places you just mentioned. Number of friends have taken recent trips to those, and it's never been on my bucket list. Not that I've wanted to avoid it either. It's just hasn't really been there.
It's always been on my list.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, just find it really interesting that so many people have just said, "Oh my gosh, the people, the culture, it's beautiful and really kind and so forth." And so I don't know, maybe it needs to be added to the list.
Yeah, we laugh about because it was not like you. It was not on my list. Wasn't off my list. It just wasn't something I thought about.
Yeah.
And this conference was there, and we went, and we loved the people. And my wife went out while I was at the conference. My wife went out and explored a little bit, and everybody was very helpful. It's a language that you can't understand, and you can't even make out the letters, right? At least when you go to Europe, you can kind of figure out some words based on letters. So we had no ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so she got kind of taken a couple of times as far as a ferry boat that cost more than it should have. and they took her for, $2 at the end of the day. And so she came away going, and they were so gracious about it all the way. But somebody was like, that should have cost you 13 cents instead of $2.13. And so anyway, we had a great experience, and it was great. Even just
it was worth totally a $2 story for sure.
It was worth the $2.
The $2 made a much better story.
Right.
Well, how can people find out more about your writing and your books and all that?
So I'm on social media on a variety of platforms where you and I are connected on a couple of those. But the easiest way is probably my website, as my wife calls it, my shrine to me, nathanwhitaker.com.
That's funny.
And I answer my own emails. And so anyway, I'm happy to connect with folks through there.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these cool stories.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And you need
And
to come
thanks for
back and
reminding me
visit
that
Winston,
I need to
apparently.
add Winston. I'm sorry?
You need to come back and visit Winston, apparently.
Oh, clearly. No, I need to quit going across to Asia and get up to Winston. That's what I've taken away from this conversation.
I mean, I love Winston, but I don't think I would trade those experiences. Take the Asian ones.
I don't know. I'll speak on behalf of Winston and say, yeah, it's remiss on your part. Get up here.
Yeah. Another one of my shortcomings.
So thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And this is Twin City Talk. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. The views and opinions portrayed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the distributors and hosting companies. And if you love this podcast, that's great, but don't think about stealing it. Reach out to us and talk about the content because it is copyrighted.